Good evening. The time is now 5:35. Welcome to the January 28th, 2026 Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting. I'm Zakia Goins McCants, Committee Chair and District 8 Board Member. It brings me great pleasure to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. For those unable to observe now, the meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on the PGCPS YouTube channel. Ms. Conley, please call the roll.
Mrs. Glenn McCants,
Present.
Mrs. Brown,
Present, I'm driving, so I'll be on camera momentarily.
no problem. Be safe. Miss Ajike,
Present.
Dr. Anderful,
Present.
Miss Walker, Chair Jackson. All right, we have 4 board members present.
Thank you. With a quorum present, the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting will come to order. If there are no objections, the committee shall adopt the January 28, 2026 meeting agenda. There being no objections, the January 28, 2026 meeting agenda is adopted. If there are no corrections, the December 17th, 2025 meeting minutes shall be approved as distributed. There being no corrections, the minutes are approved. There are no public comments for this evening, but we do want to remind the public that you do have the option to make public comments for our committee meetings through the same manner that you do our public board meetings on Diligent. So we will move on to our presentations, starting with our revenue projection, update. The chair recognizes Chief Howell, our Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. Thank you. At this time, I'm actually going to turn it over to Director Siobhan Smith, and she will provide the update.
Good evening. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see my screen okay? Thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to give a brief update on our revenue. So as you know, the governor's budget was released last week, I believe Wednesday of last week. And I just want to give you a couple of highlights on what we saw in the state's budget concerning education. So the state's FY27 budget continues to grow K through 12 funding with a $359 million statewide increase and maintains its commitment to the blueprint, which we knew based off of his press conference that he had weeks ago. For PGCPS, the most significant positive is the $228 million set aside to hold our CEP schools harmless as farm participation declines. And so this protects many of our highest need schools. And I don't know if you remember, but we talked about if that provision, the hold harmless provision, if that goes away as a current law, it is slated to, it would be a huge hit to our revenue. And so when there was the preliminary state aid, we saw where we were held harmless, and according to the governor's budget, it is their intention to advocate for this to be a permanent hold harmless, so that we're not fighting for this year over year. So that is a positive, is a huge positive for LEAs across the state. While overall funding increases are welcome, they do rely in part on the blueprint fund balance rather than recurring revenue, which does raise some sustainability questions going forward. In addition, the budget also includes targeted investments for assessments and school safety, which can help offset some of our unavoidable cost increases. But we need to be cautious. These gains must be viewed in the context of rising operating costs that continue to outpace revenue growth. And so while the headline is increased state support, that is true, the underlying reality for PGCPS is a mixed picture of protections alongside new pressures. So we want to be careful to not celebrate too much. There's still a lot of pressures regarding the state and local governments along with school districts across the state. So now we can talk about some of those risks and then our advocacy priorities for our district. The most significant risk for our district is the state's decision to shift teacher retirement costs to local government. Statewide, it's totaling about 39 million. For Prince George's County, it's estimated to be about 5 million. And again, that doesn't sound super significant, but we just want to make sure that the messaging, while the superintendent, along with the Board of Education, is collaborating with our county officials to receive additional funding towards the county contribution that's above and beyond what is required via blueprint. The county is also receiving pressure from the state, where a lot of the state local cost sharing, that percentage is lessening for the state and increasing for the county. And so that can create pressure on the county that could then in turn impact what they have available to provide in addition to what they're already having to provide. And these would not be appropriated funds to the district. These would be on behalf of payments that would increase. So just wanted to put that out there. And so just to reaffirm, that shift doesn't reduce costs, it just shifts, it transfers the cost to the counties. We are also concerned about the changes to the disparity grant, which could weaken targeted age for our large high-need districts like Prince George's County. And at the same time, Prince George's County Public Schools continues to face rising costs and compensation, transportation, special education, blueprint compliance. I mean, these are all things that we've already kind of talked about. And so our advocacy is focused on protecting our high poverty schools, avoiding further cost shifts, and ensuring the blueprint maintains fully funded and sustainable. And so our core message is quite simple. Supporting the blueprint means supporting the systems that serve the highest need students without shifting costs to local governments. So looking at this, when we talk about total operating revenue, now we're at the phase where we are talking about, now that we received the preliminary state aid and the governor's budget, we are comparing it to what our assumptions were in the proposed budget. So there are some slight variations. So this slide talks about total operating revenue, the difference between the FY27 proposed, which is superintendent presented last week, and the FY26 requested, which is post the preliminary state aid file coming out. The primary difference here is mainly in restricted. Our total restricted revenues increased by about $18.9 million or 6.4% between the proposed and requested levels. And this is primarily driven because of the concentration of poverty grant. That was the largest single driver of the increase of about 16.8 or almost $17 million. And the last piece was the career ladder funding. Our career ladder, we had a lot more teachers than we assumed that were counted for the career ladder. And as a result, that represented an increase in our anticipated revenues of about $1.3 million. So when you put those together, that constitutes the biggest portion of the increase. And then we also have, we'll go into the next slide, which will outline what's going on with the unrestricted. And so the biggest change on the unrestricted revenue is the $3.9 million. I'm going to say boost from the county, but basically it is supporting our junior ROTC, and we have some health partnerships with the Department of Health of the county. And then we have a second adjustment of about $3.2 million in state aid. And this is in major state aid, I should say. And this is primarily driven by finalized enrollment counts and then updated funding formulas once we received the preliminary state aid file. And so those adjustments, those slight on the unrestricted side, still gives us a little bit more room, of course, to close any deficits or any concerns that the district may have. And then finally, just wanted to walk through some upcoming key dates. As you will know, we have 3 upcoming work sessions and public hearings on the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th. And then finally, we are going to be requesting our Board of Education to adopt their FY27 requested budget on the 26th of February. And with that being said, that concludes the update. And no, it's not a lot, but it is good news in the sense that all the percentages were going the right way. They were going up, not down. So at this point, I will stop and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Board members, do we have any questions? I don't see any hands, but while I give my colleagues a moment or Zoom a moment to catch up, I do have a couple of my own. One, I don't know if you have all the answers, and if not, feel free to direct us to whoever does. With the career ladder, you mentioned that there were more teachers on that than we expected there to be. Can you explain a little bit where we got our estimate numbers from and how there could be, how those numbers could have been off?
Yes, and I'll try to explain the best to my knowledge. And then it may be something that we follow back up with you. So part of it is at the time we used the estimated amount that our human resources department calculated in the fall. So they provided numbers, but there was probably a reconciliation that happened with MSDP that adjusted our numbers. And as a result, it resulted in additional teachers who qualified for the career ladder funding. In addition, I'm assuming there's going to be a second reconciliation that happens probably in the spring. But we weren't aware until we got the state aid document that finalized the final counts that was agreed. And Chief, I don't know if you have anything to follow up on that, but that's the best of my understanding.
You pretty much summed it up. It's definitely a reconciliation between the account information that we provide and validating that with MSDE to make sure that we sort of land on the correct number.
Gotcha. Thank you. And then my other part of the question to make sure that I am understanding, the state has requested that uh, locally, we take on the cost of teacher retirement to the tune of about 5 million, and that would be an ask of our county government. However, because it is something that is a cost affected with the school system, it's not a part of our budget, but a part of what they are paying to support us. Are there any other costs like that broadly that we're aware of?
Yeah, there's about $200 million in costs that are paid on behalf of the school system. It includes items such as school crossing guards. There's debt service that's tied to bonds that are issued for capital programs. There's the P3 payment that's paid on our behalf. So those are just the music. So those are just some examples of some of the payments that are made on behalf of the school system. That's not part of our operating budget. But when you think about it collectively in terms of the support for the district, it's our operating budget plus these on behalf of payments that are made as well. And there's actually a
Gotcha.
section in our budget book that we have those summarized. It's way in the back. So if you get through the 300 or so pages of the budget book, there's a schedule in the back that outlines and summarizes all the payments that the county makes on our behalf.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Chief Howell. Board Member Ajakaye?
Thank you. And thank you for this wonderful updates. My question is it's from slide 5. It's about like the JROTC funding received from the county. I wanted to ask, are there any other like programs that will also receive like some additional funding, like just so that the students can have something to look forward to? I know there's a lot of JROTC students in the county that would be really excited to hear about this funding, but just to give hope for the other students so that they know if there's going to be more funding provided for their specific programs too, such as band and so on and so forth.
So I am not sure of on the restricted side, what additional funding, like I don't know off the top of my head, I can't look that up. Our junior ROTC funding is funding that we receive year over year over year, but there is a local share to that. And so that local share is usually having to come on the unrestricted side, or we have to reduce some of the blueprint dollars that we get in order to pay for it. But this year we are asking the county to cover that funding um, with the additional funding that we're asking. So right now, it's not a pressure restricted or unrestricted budget to cover that local portion of the funding. And so that's why it kind of looks like an enhancement or an increase. And she found,
Yeah, so with the JROTC program, essentially the funding that we get for that is tied to paying for the instructors that helps to support that program. And the funding that we get to cover the cost of the instructors comes from the federal government. But there is a local match that we're required to pay to support the cost of those instructors. And that local match is the share or the portion that would come from the county government. Um, so in the past, it was a separate amount that was above and beyond the maintenance of effort that the county would contribute towards the local batch or the local share of the JROTC instructors. Since the advent of Blueprint, it's kind of been rolled up into that total number that they provide to us. But we always like to kind of call it out as a separate item. So we're not taking our Blueprint funds to take care of this local match requirement. So that's why you see that captured there.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. So with that, do we have any more questions, board members? Okay, seeing none. Thank you all both. We will move on to your budget work session overview. Chief Howe?
So I'll just kind of speak to it at a high level. Siobhan presented earlier on the last slide. We have 3 work sessions coming up February 5th, 12th, and 19th. For those that have been a part of the budget work session process in the past, the format for this year will be different than how it's been in the past. What used to happen in the past, there would be a series of questions that would be submitted by board members to administration based off of the review of the budget book. And then we would come to the work sessions to be able to talk through the responses to those questions, that we would provide those responses in advance. For this year's session, as you know, there's been a lot more engagement throughout the budget formulation process, and we've been doing it in phases, sharing different aspects of the budget formulation as we've been going along. We spent a lot of time in the beginning initially talking about the reductions that were being made, and then we've talked a little bit more about the enhancements that were being made. This is kind of really pulling it all together. So each division will spend about 10 minutes providing an overview of their overall division, providing a highlight of their overall mission, their core services, and really what is the focus of what they're going to be doing with their planned budget for the coming year. They'll be able to kind of bring the full story together about what reductions did take place in their respective division, but more importantly, to really focus on what remains in their budget and what they're going to do with that for the coming year. This will be after the budget book is released. So folks who want to have a sneak peek at the budget book, which is great reading if you like to get into the numbers. But this is it's a great way for each division to kind of bring their budget story to life. So they'll spend time about 10 minutes going through that at a high level. And then the floor will be opened up for questions from board members. The work sessions will be preceded by or followed by a public hearing as well. So there'll be an opportunity for public comment as well. And so that format will be the same for each of the 3 work sessions. The first work session coming up next week, we'll start off with the big 3, as we like to refer to them as. That will include the Division of Operations, the Division of Academics, and the Division of School Support and Leadership. And then there's two following work sessions after that. And I'm sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. I'll try to pull it real quick shortly, but the next session on the 12th, the format will be the same. Each division will spend time presenting for 10 minutes, and then it'll be followed by Q&A. But the goal is to really help to provide a little bit more color and understanding about what is in the budget, because sometimes it's hard to glean that just by looking at tables and schedules and the budget book. So this is really a good way to try to bring all of this together, but at a division by division basis. So that is the overall plan for the work sessions.
Thank you so much, Chief Howell. Board members, do we have any questions? Dr. Anderful?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. I have a little bit of background noise. So I just had a quick question. I heard you, let me back up. Let me just ask pointedly. So, Chief Howe, can you explain how this format is different from what we experienced last year?
Yes, so for this year, there will be short presentations that are put together by each division, and they will spend about 10 minutes sort of walking through their division, really providing some understanding about what is actually captured in their budget, what changes took place in their budget, so what they may have reduced, what enhancements or accelerants there may have been in their budget, and really what is their plan to do with the budget that has been appropriated for the year. Keep in mind, we spent a lot of time over the last, I don't know, month or so talking about reductions of $150 million, which is a substantial amount. We haven't cut that much in one year, but there's a $3 billion budget that still remains. So we really want to spend some time talking through what is planned for the coming year that's built into each of those respective budget. So that's really how the structure is going to be different. It's going to be less of a sort of coming into it and responding to prepared Q&A, but really, hopefully, since we've spent quite a bit of time over the last, 5, 6 weeks or so along the way, providing insight into the budget formulation, some of the decisions that were being made. Hopefully, there'll be less questions around that because there's been a lot of discussion about that already, but just really give an opportunity to kind of pull it all together for each of the different areas. So some of it will be information we've shared before, but it's really kind of laser focused one division at a time, whereas before we've been providing information at a high level for the whole district.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful. I know that we have a few seconds left, so I'll follow back in the second round. I know for some reason it felt like that's similar to what happened last year, but perhaps maybe it just wasn't done to that level. So my assumption is you have set expectations or someone has set expectations for what should be included in the overviews to ensure that there's continuity across. Is that true?
Exactly, exactly. So each division will pretty much follow a very similar format. And again, it's really about education. That's really kind of the goal of this, is to make sure that the budget book is a nice supplement, but this is really an opportunity to kind of just provide information about each area. What are their core services? What is the mission? What will be their main focus for the coming year and their spending plan for the budget that's been appropriate for their area. And also, I did want to just go back to quickly because there was a question asked about the different divisions. So I mentioned the big three will be the week of the 5th, the Division of Academics, Operations, and School Support and Leadership. And then the next work session will be Accountability, Human Resources, Information Technology, and the Board of Education. And then the final work session on February 19th will be the Division of Business Management Services, the Chief of Staff, Communications and Community Engagement, and then the Office of the Superintendent and General Counsel. So that will be the flow of those three different sessions, or the order of those three different sessions.
Thank
And in
you.
each of the sessions will be the division chief, and they'll be there with their directors as well and their associate superintendents.
Is that going to be on the website, on the budget resources website where people can clearly see?
Yes. Yep.
Board Member Brown?
Thank you, Chair Goins McCants. You kind of segued into what I was um, going to ask. Chief Howell, can you confirm if the budget book is going to be published tomorrow? Because that's noted in the timeline. I know we've been in snow days, so are we still with the timeline, or, we've all been in snow days, so I can only imagine. But I kind of wanted to know if we're still sticking to the timeline, if the timeline is going to shift. Can you speak on that? Thank you.
Yes, I will give a huge shout out to the budget office because rain, sleet, shine, snow. They have been busy, busy working. It is shifting just a day, so we are expecting to release it on Friday. But they have been busy working throughout this time frame to ensure that we stick to our time schedule because it's really important that the budget book is released prior to the work sessions so that our community, our stakeholders have an opportunity to review the budget book prior to February 5th. So
Thank
kudos
you.
to the budget office. They've been working
Yay.
really hard.
Are we going to be able to see an update in the timeline on the website? Just because I know several people have checked and have asked that exact same question.
They're looking for the 29th. Yeah, we can circle back with the comms team and see if we can have that updated to reflect the 30th.
Thank you so much. I want to give my colleagues an opportunity if we have any more questions for a first round, and if not, we'll open it up for any second round questions. Okay, I don't see any additional hands for first round. Second round, do we have any additional questions for Chief Howell and Director Smith? Seeing none, thank you both so much for your presentations and answering our questions and requests. And with that, we will move to our operations updates. The chair recognizes Associate Superintendent Washington for our EFMP and educational specifications update.
Good evening, Chair and board members. Thank you for this opportunity. And I will share my screen here. Move this into. So I'm coming today on behalf of the Department of Capital Programs, specifically the Office of Planning, to provide an overview of the work that the planning team will begin this winter. Really two big planning initiatives. The educational specifications, which are, really what schools need to support teaching and learning, and our educational master facilities master plan, which is our 10-year plan looking at all of the facilities long-term planning for the county. So really, to start it off, the educational specifications are literally just a blueprint. We create prototype ed specs. So for elementary school, middle school, and high school, they were last updated in 2015, and they align with the EFMP. So they're one and the same. With that said, we also have ed specs that will be specified per school project. So we have a baseline prototype that we send out when we are getting quotes and trying to get architects involved in the development of schools. But then there are specific project specific ed specs based on the programs that will be in the schools, any special ed programs, any special components within a school. And that is what is used when we build schools. That, like it says here, the ed spec defines space types, sizes, and very specifically adjacencies. So putting loud sports and music classes away from the academic classes. And so that's kind of how the ed specs work. These work with the architects and planning to make sure that what we deliver in District 5 is the same that we would deliver in District 8. So the Educational Facilities Master Plan is really our plan for academic and community needs over the next 10 years. So we first looked at this back and it was approved in 2017. And within that, we looked at facility condition, educational adequacy, and goals that the district had looked at before. Uh, 12 to 15 years ago, the big driver was reducing overcrowding and moving the sixth grade out of elementary schools. So there was a big push for more middle schools to be part of the EFNP and the priority list. That it may change. That will change based upon data collection and analysis, community and stakeholder engagement, and really seeing what our facilities need and the conditions that they're in. One thing that I want to stress is that we have uh, two cycles, cycle one, cycle two, cycle three, based upon the dire need and the urgency of the schools, with cycle one being the most urgent. Just because a school is in cycle two does not mean it automatically bumps up to cycle one. It's a whole reassessment. There may be schools that were cycle three that have deteriorated more and need to rise to the top. So we say that because there may be an expectation that, okay, we just cleared out and all schools rise. That may not necessarily be the case. Additionally, there may be other priorities that the board and the school system wants to undertake that will adjust the schools that will be evaluated and the priority that they will have within the EFMP. So here's the timeline. Really, right now, we are thinking about our data needs, outlining key questions and topics. So, what are the key questions? One of them is around pre-K, universal pre-K. How are we incorporating that into our elementary schools? Right now, we are adding for every elementary school that we deliver 4 pre-K classrooms. That's is that where we should stay? Do we need more seats? Additionally, we are looking at with Associate Superintendent Trinell Bowman around special ed. Are there specific things that we need to change in our school design and the numbers to reflect the booming population of autism within that we're seeing within the district? So those are some of the key questions and topics that we're starting to highlight and outline that we will try to grab data and pull data in as we go forward. Then for the rest of the year will be data collection. So that will be literally going into every school, doing a site assessment, also conducting a set stakeholder input. There will be very shortly a release of a comprehensive communications plan that will, I'm sorry, that will literally lay out in extreme detail of all of the community opportunities and input opportunities that will exist. That will include in-person and virtual meetings. That will include going to every district, both board and probably council district as well. And so, in addition to probably regional meetings as well. So it will be a very comprehensive opportunity and program to get as much input as possible. Then this time next year will be drafting the initial draft of the EFNP, and the consultants that have been hired will do that. And then finally, we will be presenting to the board for approval the final EFNP for adoption. With that said, there will be iterations that will be provided to the board, so it will not be under vault lock and key, and then we just deliver it next spring for approval. There will be opportunities, I am sure, for input, as well as this is what we're seeing right now. This is the information that we have. and for feedback to find tweaks or find additional information if needed. So, like I said, the current activities, we've had a project kickoff. We've identified consultants that will support with the communications, with the ed spec development, and with the site assessments. We have started an internal committee, the Facility Advisory Committee. So, all of the chiefs from academics, from finance to school leadership, school support and leadership, operations. Everyone is on the facility advisory committee. Why? Because we want to make sure that everybody sees the direction that's going, that there's feedback from all parts of the district, specifically academics. We on the operations side, we like to get stuff done. But, we also need to be told, hey, this is things that we're thinking about and that things change and there are iterations as they go. And so that's the necessity of having Dr. White and her team in the room and Dr. Merrow and her team, just to make sure that, we are understanding how the buildings need to operate and the flexibility needed to ensure that we can deliver the educational program in our schools. We are compiling existing data and documentations. Really, what were the last assessments? What are the building records telling us? And then the pilot assessment of 3 schools. What does that mean? That means we're going to go all the way through this process with 3 identified schools. So we will do a facility assessment, which is the condition of the building. We will do educational adequacy. There are some questions around that. That basically means that are we able and is the school able to deliver its program in the school that it has right now? So if we're talking about a school that's 160% overcrowded, that probably means they're going to have a very poor educational adequacy, regardless of if the facility is well maintained. And that's the difference. And so we would take 3 schools through that process to make sure that we are comfortable with the steps that we're using to do full assessments. And then we will take it out to all of the schools. There will be internal stakeholder meetings, as I was saying, reaching out to the board and the school communities. We'll draft educational ed specs, and we'll have as many community input sessions as we can to ensure that there is maximum visibility into this process. But not to hide the ball, this is the process that helps us identify the next 10 years of priority schools. So this is a very important process for us. We are excited about it. We're excited about the opportunity to continue to move forward and deliver schools. And we are excited about ensuring an equitable process to make sure that that happens. And with that, I will turn it over to see if there are any questions. I hope I can answer. If not, I will make sure I get answers for you. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Associate Superintendent Washington. Board members, do we have any questions? Dr. Andeful?
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Washington. Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. Just had a quick question about the pilot assessment that you're suggesting. One, I think it's a great idea to pilot. I'm wondering if you all have given any thought to criteria for selection of the schools. Just wondering how you'll ensure if you started thinking about that, how you'll ensure that the data that you capture from those initial assessments will be helpful as you consider scaling. So that's just where my mind went initially. So wondering if you've given any thought to that and how you'll select which schools you'll do the pilot with.
I will follow up to confirm, but my understanding is that it's going to be a school at each level. So high school, middle school, elementary school. And my understanding is that it is going to be schools that we have identified and we believe we understand what the condition of that school would be. So for instance, The biggest swath of schools that we've seen the most problems in over the last 5 to 10 years have been our STEAM schools, schools with STEAM plants in them. They've had a higher, failure rate. Some of the schools that we've had to close have been STEAM plants. So we are going back, and those schools will be the first ones assessed. So one of those initial schools will be a STEAM school. Are we seeing the level of deterioration that we expected to see? Are we not? Why is that? Is that could it be program? Could it be a lot of different things? That would be one consideration. I think also it will be utilization, identifying schools that may be underutilized and overutilized. So, because what we want to make sure is that we have a consistent, to your point, we have a consistent approach that we can scale up and it's consistent across and there are no and if there are outliers we know why, like we are able to bring it back to the control basically. So but I will confirm exactly what the process is, also if we are picking them or are the engineers picking them because of other criteria. And so I will commit to get an answer to you, a specific answer to you, how they plan to approach that. But that's a great question. My general understanding is that that's how they are thinking, but that may change based upon information on the ground.
Thank you. If I may just, one, looking forward to just seeing that, just again, out of curiosity. But to your point about the control, if they are not thinking in this way right now, it may be helpful to ensure that there is a school in that initial sample that, that all of the schools aren't exactly the same, right? And so that you're not only assessing STEAM schools because of because of whatever our, initial assumptions may be. It may be helpful to have one in that subset that almost acts as a control so that you have a comparison and you're able to really test out some of what your assumptions are for the pilot. So just a thought. Thank you.
Board Member Ajakaye.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Washington, for the presentation. My
Mhm.
question is more so like how, so this is about like the educational facilities like, being built, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to ask, so how often after the first three schools are identified and like they start getting built, will like other schools start being considered for, new facilities? Because you said that the first update was provided in 2017, so like that means next year will be almost 10 years. So will the county wait another 10 years before selecting another three schools, or how many years interval before more schools can be also considered for the program?
So once this process happens, a priority order is identified. So to clarify, since 2017 through say 2028, PGCPS will deliver 22 brand new schools. So that is basically what we have focused on, is delivering schools. So we will continue to work through that priority order. This just creates the new priority order as we go forward. So we will continue to move forward. So right now, in the queue is High Point, Cool Spring, New Northern, Gwynn Park. Like so, they're already priority. We're just now sliding in the additional schools as we continue to keep going. With that said, the biggest caveat, and I'm glad that I'm drafting after finance, is money. So as long as there are capital funds identified at the level requested so that we can continue to move projects forward, that's really the regulator of the timing is we have seen just the level of capital funding, which we get all from the county, that has decreased over the past few years. And so that is something that we are watching and want to be thoughtful about. But all things, staying equal, that is our plan, is to just continue to add priorities and to continue to move with this process. There's one other fun part is consolidations. That will be part of the conversation. That's a move that the state is pushing as well for state match funds, is maximum consolidation and utilization of facilities. So that will also be part of this conversation as well.
Thank you.
My question is actually a compound question. So, in that vein, when we are looking at this facilities master plan, you spoke about building, but how are we evaluating, I guess, the difference between building and then acquisition of additional buildings, one, and then number two, when we're talking about our capital improvement funds versus our operating budget. How do we determine which pot of money, which action is coming from?
Okay. So first, this process here is all around the facilities that we have in our stock now. So we have roughly 208 schools and 18 administrative facilities. So the EFMP is not looking at administrative facilities. So it is only looking at the schools that we have in our facility portfolio. So this is not taken into account if we are to acquire any property or anything like that. It's what we have right now. And so that assessment will be, like I said, it will be facility condition, but then also educational adequacy and the useful life still left in the building. So this also plays out where we may not need to rebuild. We may just need a roof. We may need, so it literally sets up a priority that allows us to prioritize projects so that we can go into each budget year with a real tight sense of what we need on the capital budget side. So for the capital budget versus operating budget, the big thing for us is that we are permanent fixtures and assets that we are creating on behalf of the school system. Operating is year by year. Capital, our budget actually rolls over every year until the funds are expended for projects. So the way to think about capital and is separate is long-term uh, physical plant type of assets. We're delivering assets that right now we're looking at will have a useful life of 60 years. So that's where, and that money comes from bonds that are placed by the county. So it's separate from the operating budget, which is out of revenue and taxes and other fees, etc. But ours is solely based upon the affordability limit that the county sets for placing general obligation bonds each year. And then that is matched with the state match. So we put together the CIP. The state says that we will give, I think, 65%. It switches, it changes every year. So X% from the state, and then the county has to match it. And before we can move forward with any project, we must have all money in hand. So we must have all of the local and all of the state, and then we're able to proceed. And that's why it takes us a little longer for projects to get started because it may be multiple fiscal years before we get all of the money necessary to move a project forward.
Thank you for that, Associate Superintendent Washington. Board members, do we have any additional questions for round one? Seeing none, do we have a need or request for round two? Vice Chair Brown?
Yes, so sorry about that. Thank you so much, Chair Goins McCanson. Thank you so much to Jason Washington. I appreciate all the work that Capital Improvement has done. I know a lot of information. I've learned so much from you all. One of the questions that came from a constituent was what year would those new priority order schools start based on state and county funding? Current projects are not even breaking ground until 2028 and all the way into the 2030s. For example, High Point and Northern High School, the new Northern High School for overcrowding. So yeah, do we have an answer for that?
It will be after then. So it will basically be if we can accelerate as much as possible, definitely. And so right now, we are only basing our priorities on what we know right now. So for instance, we have identified, we don't know the school, that capital programs is to give us a recommendation, I believe, in a couple of weeks that will come to the board for a new Southern elementary school. Like, so they have to now figure out where that will be. They've put a placeholder in the priority list that there will be a new consolidated elementary school. And now they because we need one, so now they're gonna come back and tell us where the school will be, what communities will be impacted, and then the board will vote, and then that will start the planning process for that school. And so that usually is how it works, is that the capital programs team has already identified, and I believe that there's also a middle school, a southern middle school that's also targeted in the next, I'll say 5 to 8 years as well, even though it's not in the priority because it's not identified, it is in their stack. And so that's how they will start identifying schools that are not identified yet, but we've kind of slotted them in and told the state we will be coming back. And so that's kind of what happens. We signal to the state we started planning for this school. We will come back in 2 years for planning dollars. We will then come back with for construction dollar cost. And so that's kind of how we set it up. But it starts with the board. It starts with the capital programs team saying, we've identified we're going to do a new elementary school here. This is our justification. This is why we need it. And then the board says yes. And then that we then identify that and then we start with the planning process. So
Yeah.
I would say with this whole it's we are going to do the best we can, but high schools cost a lot of money. And we have three of them lined up right after each other. Suitland is beautiful, but and then they also take longer to build too. So
Thank you.
Are there any additional second round questions? Well, seeing none, I have one that also kind of builds on some of the things you just spoke about. In that case, then, you spoke a little bit about this timeline and an internal working group. Do we have any representation from the county on those work groups? Because a lot of things, I know you said it's about our facilities that we have right now, but sometimes the issues, et cetera, that we have with our facilities are not just a facility issue on our part, but it's also things that we share with county government. Do we have any representation from them in this process?
we will have representation in terms of participating in input. They are not on the facilities administration committee. That is driven by administrative procedure. So that they're not on that, but that's why there will be outreach to our community stakeholders to either have listening sessions or to meet with them to talk through concerns and questions. Because you're right, we have community schools with park and planning. We have uh, schools that have a strong significance in communities, and so it behooves us to meet communities where they are. But there's no one on an internal committee as part of this process, external to PGCPS.
Well, I guess my question to clarify the difference between community input and involvement, because that was going to be my second question. Do we have, I know you said comms is working on that and we'll get that, but any sort of idea of when those will actually start so we can let
Oh no,
constituents
we will let you all know. Our expectation is we want those to start in March and April. And t pretty much the rhythm that you have seen from the budget is probably going to be the rhythm that we are going. It's a lot of square footage to cover, and it's a lot of communities to engage. And our drive to the consultants putting the schedule is that we hit as many folks as quickly as possible together. So like we're not one group in February, then we start again in April. No, it's going to be a sustained effort because we want to make sure that every community that we're not that we're moving to get input. But that is the expectation is that this will be very robust and very aggressive, and just in terms of getting out as quickly and as thoroughly as we can for engagement and for feedback.
Gotcha. Vice Chair Brown?
Yes, thank you. Chair Goins McCants, is this for second round? I want to make sure that I'm respectful of the time.
We are still technically in second round, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I have a question. I know you all receive input from the community. As a liaison for the Disabilities Issue Advisory Board, I think it's going to be very vital that we have someone from that community that is aware of some ADA issues that we've been having around obviously our older schools, but even going into our newer schools, we want to make sure that they have a voice and they have a say. So what does that look like as far as community endpoint from an ADA perspective? Because I do believe there needs to be oversight in that.
Well, it will start with Associate Superintendent Bowman. So Trinell is part of this group, but she also has a team that know very well, and they love letting me know of the things that need to be fixed quickly. So what the expectation is that we'll set together an agenda of what we're covering, and the first two topics are special education and mobility. So those are the first two topics that we are covering as a fact committee. One, because of the impact and the growing impact of the special education community, and two, because of the fact that um, what we there seems to be a lot of confusion, and I don't know where around what our designers are being told is ADA compliant versus when it's finished. So, for instance, it took a minute, but in our newer schools, we do not have a fire evacuation plan for our students with wheelchairs. We put them in corridors with fire rated walls now, so that they stay in a secure vestibule place inside the building where the fire department can come get them versus us having a plan to get them out of the building. That's a change. And our special education colleagues, were very concerned when they didn't see a plan, and we were like, no, the plan is to move them to fire rated corridors. And so I think to this point, Board Member Brown, having those discussions in these meetings, because that's what we on the operations side, our architects and DPI is saying is fine, but then the end user is saying this is new. Where did this come from? Why are we doing this? So I definitely see the value of making sure that we bring in voices as we start to make progress, specifically around the ed specs on, okay, but have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And so that they're general and they don't have to be one-offs for specific schools, but they can be generally applied across the district.
Thank you.
So with that, board members, do we have anyone who did not have an opportunity to ask their questions in first or second round that would like to ask additional questions? Okay, seeing none. We will move to our adjournment. Please join us for our upcoming budget work session on February 5th, 2026. Be sure to sign up on the PGCPS website if you have any feedback you would like to share. Our next virtual operations, budget, and fiscal affairs committee meeting will be on February 11th, 2026. Please continue to check the Prince George's County Board of Education website for meeting information and updates. So with that, thank you everyone for the great discussion. To our viewers, thank you for watching. There being no further business, the time is now 6:35, and the January 28th, 2026 Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting is adjourned.